Welcome back, everybody. Can give you a few minutes to, well, seconds to finish up your conversation. Oh, you're so good. All of you are so good. Okay, so before I introduce our featured poets, please remember that we are calling for response poems written in response to our poets of the season. So we have Caitlin Press will be publishing our Canadian anthology of response poetry called After: Poems in Dialogue. And Zoe Dickinson and I are editing it, and you can read more about it on our website, on Planet Earth Poetry's website. And if you're not a newsletter subscriber, please do go to the website and just sign up so you can stay in the loop, and you can learn more about who has read this season. There are over 60 poets in this season, amazing poets like Terry Ann and Lorri. And yeah, if you write in response to them, you can then send those into the anthology. And okay, here we are. We've arrived at the exciting moment. I'm going to introduce, first of all, Terry Ann Carter. Poet and paper artist, Terry Ann Carter is the author of 8 collections of long-form poetry, 2 haiku guidebooks, and 5 haiku chapbooks. She has edited 4 haiku anthologies as well. And as the past president of Haiku Canada, founder of a facilitator for Kadao, Ottawa, and Haiku Arbutus Victoria study group, she has given hundreds of haiku and book art workshops around the world. Terry Ann's work has also been shortlisted for the Archibald Lampum Award, the Akon Plantos People's Poetry Award, and won a Touchstone Distinguished Book Award. As a community fellow at the University of Victoria's Centres of Study in Religion and Society, Terry Ann studied the Buddhist influence on contemporary English haiku and gave several lectures on this topic. Her latest book is In the Spaces Between Bonsai. Please welcome Terry Ann.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to begin by dedicating this poem to my fellow reader, Lorri, because it was written in Halifax. The poem is called Crystallization, and it is forthcoming in the new anthology that Yvonne Blomer is editing on ice. I had to get her permission. I wanted to make sure it was okay to read. Sometimes in an anthology, you don't read a poem that's coming. But I said I really want to dedicate it to Lorri. Crystallization. My grade 3 students are eager to make paper snowflakes for the George Vanier Elementary School's Art Day. They choose small white sheets that I have created for them and listen intently as I explain the formation of ice crystals. The impossibility of repetition blows their minds. And I continue with the science talk: water vapor, hydrogen bonds, hexagons, explaining that at minus 13 degrees Celsius, the tips begin to sprout into 6 sides. I have diagrams, photos from National Geographic and Home Hardware, even some artistic prints from my neighbor, Carl Johnson, that I laminated at Black's Photography in Bayshore Shopping Center, with small pieces of Scotch tape stuck to their small fingers. We proceed to stand on chairs and small ladders to arrange our artful flakes on windows, hallways, even the principal's office door. And Birgit Belsenmaker wants to invite her mother, who grew up in Sweden, to speak to the class about winters in Stockholm. Joey Taint wants to stick his scissors into the arm of Andrew Brookside, who will grow up and cover that arm with Pink Floyd record cover tattoos, beginning with Dark Side of the Moon at the shoulder. And Leslie Smith will open an import-export business, travel to Hong Kong to marry a wealthy lawyer. And little Cassie Applegate will die in a car collision when she is only 18. It is 50 years later. I'm sitting on a bench in the Halifax Public Gardens, admiring a beautiful copper beach at the entrance. I'm thinking about that grade 3 class so long ago, the crystallization of their lives. I am remembering those paper snowflakes we made and how climate change will inevitably change the direction of their children's lives, how we are all bound together by DNA, and the desire to Scotch tape this melting world together again. April 4th is the anniversary of a transplant for my husband. He had a kidney transplant, April 4th, 1997. I decided that I wanted to honor today by reading some poems from a book called Transplanted. Star Attraction. Before your transplant, I begin to dream about them, kidney beans, kidney-shaped pools. Pool cues poke kidneys instead of billiards. They fly in V formations. Kidneys in the faces of flowers, lurking beneath the back deck. Blubbery interviews on primetime radio. Driving home over back roads, I almost hit a groundhog, slam on my brakes to watch it waddle off to the woods, like a fat, fuzzy kidney. And on sleepless nights, TV kidneys swivel their hips, sing backup for Gladys Knight. Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. Origami. Skin can be cut, shaped into layers, with corners touching corners, skillfully manipulated through blood, tendon, muscle, fat. In a transplant, an organ passed from one body to another is an allegory of this cherry petal season, when rhododendrons sparkle and sunlight bounces off your blue eyes. A surgeon conceives a new shape. Hands scrubbed and ready, he begins the first cut. Already the artifact takes form. It is worth remembering Sadako, the Hiroshima girl, and her 1,000 cranes, her folding. On this April morning, in a light downpour of pollen and daffodils, flesh makes way for flesh. Your sister's kidney, no larger than a fist, light as a bird. It was a very successful transplant. He lived for a number of years after. The second book is In the Spaces Between Bonsai. A lot of people know that I am a haiku poet. I've been a study of haiku for a very long time. And I'm still learning. One time I was giving a poetry reading and somebody said, "Do you ever write about writing haiku?" And I thought, I think I do. And so I found some poems. I went back and every once in a while, they would just surface. And I found quite a few. And I'd like to share some from In the Spaces Between Bonsai. When I write a haiku, I look to the sky after parking my car in my mother's laneway that 40 below February evening in Ottawa, ice pointing downward from eaves, wind sucking the breath from children. And when I look up after punching the key fob that locks the car doors, I notice the moon, hazy as it is, between clouds, moving so fast that I can see darkness floating across its surface. And then it is hidden. By the time I have reached my mother's front steps, the moon has disappeared altogether. And I wait for a moment, still watching, until I see it again. My mother is waiting on the results of cancer tests, and I am there that evening to watch The West Wing, our favorite TV show, and share a cup of tea, orange pekoe. And I remember the moon sliding behind the clouds, seeing it, not seeing it. And I think of her tests. Will they be positive or negative? And in my mind, I put these two things together, the moon and my mother's tests. And it looks like this. Moon, in and out of clouds, my mother's cancer tests. A kind of connection with the big picture, the cosmos, and the little picture, which is me, my mother, waiting in the space between. The Way of Haikai. Haikai is haiku in Japanese. The Way of Haikai. The forest behind my home could be the forest of Nikko, Nara, Matsuyama. For the first time, I see creatures of the rain, tree frog, beetle, slug. I pick at the moss growing over stones. I look under its matted secrets. Remember Tojeki Temple in Kamakura, where homeless women lived out their lives as nuns, where temple bells sound against the night crickets, and ghosts decipher what they know, what no one knows. Shioni is here, Ono no Komachi too. They are teaching me island life. I reach for seawater. It is cold over my palms. From my window, a mason jar moon, just waiting for first fireflies. When I first moved out to Victoria from Ottawa, I thought I was going to see fireflies. And of course, I didn't see any because you don't have them. Foreign. I wrote this after watching Journey to the Silk Road on PBS one evening. The sun is setting. The road from Azerbaijan is filled with mint and dust. Travelers stop for tea. It might be a lesson. Everything is foreign here. Women's faces bathed in black, calls to prayer, words that escape the playful child. The generous gesture from the silver-lined pot, this simple steam of grace rises into the evening air. After a meal of meat and cumin, I will write a haiku about that pot of tea and the steam rising. I'd like to close with a few haiku. Alone in Tokyo, even the chopsticks in pairs. Alone in Tokyo, even the chopsticks in pairs. Braille map all those places I've never been. Braille map all those places I've never been. Fingers of the kite master flying. Fingers of the kite master flying. How everything falls into place. Moon shadow. how everything falls into place. Moon shadow. Empty space within the bowl. Cherry blossom moon. Empty space within the bowl. Cherry blossom moon. And this last one is in memory of Patrick Lane. Blue morpho, the silence between her wings. Blue morpho, the silence between her wings. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Terry Ann. It was amazing. Thank goodness we've recorded it. Lorri Neilsen Glenn is the author and/or contributing editor of 15 titles of poetry, creative nonfiction, and scholarly works. Most recently, The Old Moon in Her Arms, Women I Have Known and Been. What a gorgeous title. She was the first Métis Poet Laureate of Halifax, Nova Scotia, and is a Professor Emerita of Mount St. Vincent University. An award-winning teacher and researcher, Lorri has served on juries for the Canada Council, CBC Literary Awards, and numerous provincial and national book prizes. Lorri's poetry has been adapted several times for libretti, and her essays and poems appear in numerous anthologies and literary journals. She was a recipient of Halifax's Woman of Excellence Award, has had appointments as writer-in-residence across Canada, and served as president of the Writers' Federation of Nova Scotia. Lorri has mentored writers across Canada and in Ireland, New Zealand, Australia, Greece, and Chile. She divides her time between Halifax and Rose Bay, Nova Scotia. Please welcome Lorri Neilsen Glenn.
Thank you so much, Kieran. And thank you, everyone. Wow, what a great crowd. That's lovely. Really enjoyed all the poetry so far this evening. It's been wonderful. The open mic poetry and Cherry, that was stunning. It was just gorgeous. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I too have 3 books. I promise I won't be reading all of them, like the whole book, I mean. Okay, my glasses on. The Old Moon in Her Arms is the most recent, and it's a collection of 100 plus prose poems, poemy prose, prosy poems. It runs the gamut, and it's an exploration of that. It's also an exploration. It's a decision I made to try to take stock. Try to figure out, you get to a certain age and you're losing a lot of friends and family, and you say, okay, what matters here? And so that's the impetus for this, to try to write to understand what's going on and to see what matters and how to most productively spend the rest of the days, whatever days I have. So I will open with the prologue in this and read a couple of pieces from here, and then read some poems from earlier work. It opens with a quote by Trinh T. Minh. With every step, the world comes to the walker. Today I walked on the ocean floor. On days when the tide is especially low, the dog and I step down over boulders and layers of shale to reach the basin of the bay. Here the gunmetal grays and bright ochres come alive. We cross the spot where a small stream rinses through the rocks before it's soaked up by the sand and the seaweed. Around here, that seaweed is called rockweed. Its biological name is Ascophyllum nodosum, but do I need a name? Names can be a comfort, yet my wonder about the outside world increases with age, and language seems to limit my awareness as much as it expands it. While I play at philosopher and step carefully over the slippery rockweed, the dog rolls in ecstasy in the slithery mass, her small, sturdy frame flipping, writhing, snorting. She'll smell of the ocean now, which I think is the point. I bend down to search for tiny periwinkles, most the size of a high bush blueberry. Some ooze meat from their opening. Their shells open in what I think of as a lament. But if today is a day for grieving, it's anticipatory grief. Life is too short. I know nothing. Everywhere is beauty, and I don't know how to appreciate it without breaking my heart. Today is the summer solstice, and in Canada, it's also National Indigenous Peoples Day, a day to think of beginnings. I feel spent and raw, however, wavering between the desire to write and the need to be by the water. And so I walk on the ocean bottom where low tide has exposed a wide swath of rock and sea life. I see subtleties in umbers and grays, splashes of yellow algae that carpet the shale. This bay is free of old beer cans, stranded flip-flops, and all the usual detritus from a summer place. Canada's ocean playground, say the tourist brochures. A summer place. My mind goes directly to the wistful strains of Percy Faith's old tune. Youth is filled with that kind of ache, I think. Now that I'm beyond child raising and constant caretaking, the ache returns, but it's different. Something between yearning and mourning. The dog has poked her cold nose into the back of my knee and now looks up, waiting. I throw a stick about 20 meters out into deeper water, and she plunges in, returning in no time, gasping, triumphant. The stick lands at my feet, and my skin feels the cold spray from her full-bodied shake. Tomorrow, the earth begins to tilt away from the sun. When the dog and I walk back from the shore through the woods, the high sun shreds its light through tree branches, throwing tatters across the green. Since most everyone here is a writer, let me see if I'll read something having to do with writing. Make sure I don't go over here. This is called Scrim. Suddenly it's summer. I wake to a warm ocean breeze on my face, my body damp under the quilt. Outside, the early June greenery appears soft, bursting with promise. I've slept long with churning, vivid dreams, the like of which I haven't experienced since childhood. When I pull my sticky body from the bed and pick my way down the stairs to make coffee, I reach for one of the ripe bananas from the bowl and find they're not there. Ah, yes, they were in the dream. How slippery and fluid consciousness is. Ripening bananas, images of a house with many rooms, and a woman who spoke with the Minnesota accent, enunciating each word, roundly hard R's front of mouth, insistent, very Frances McDormand. But I can't remember what about. How easily mental illness or dementia could draw a thin curtain between what we think of as real and what blooms in the mind. Is reality the wraith I wake to, or what I leave on the pillow? I could ask the same of writing. After decades of learning and teaching about writing, of crafting poetry, essays, and books, I still find the enterprise mysterious. It's an exercise in wandering in the dark, tracking small points of light, using grit and hope to brush away fog and reveal insight, a state that feels not unlike dreaming, another reality that seems limitless and unconstrained, a kind of floating. Outside, the maritime breeze is a light breath on the tree branches. Crows hover, and I see more of their white droppings on the barn roof. A family moved in this spring. One always perches on the larch near the shore, on the roof, or on the pine tree behind the garden shed. Yesterday, the big one was so raucous, I mimicked it squawking. The bird cocked its head, and the dog turned to stare at me. This is downtime. After more than a year of too frenetic, too long of emotional upheavals, illness and loss, recuperation, round the clock, keeping on. I've carved out a week without the usual avalanche of work clutter. Although I've been looking forward to the break, I'm unsettled. Who am I when my mind isn't filled with must-dos and shoulds? Am I, like so many, suffering from workism? The house is quiet, only the hum of appliances. I open the computer and pick away at an essay, and 2 hours later I realize I need to use the washroom when the dog is staring at me telepathically, demanding a walk. It had been a long time since I allowed myself to fall into the bright and altered state of writing. When the dog and I walk along the shore, the tide is out as far as it can be. I rarely see that many shoals reachable by foot. And so we walk across the shale and the seaweed, the tide pulls the periwinkles, the black rock heaves, the seagrass. We walk as far as we can toward the ocean itself, 100 or so meters from shore, where just a few hours ago, a lobster boat might have passed, making its way to open water. It's as though I've peered into the ocean's subconscious. Seawater covers 71% of the planet, yet it said we know more about the surface of the moon than the bottom of the ocean. That's a lot of mystery. We have only one global ocean. So much life is underwater, yet most of us see only the surface, its skin. But at low tide, when the thrash and slosh of water are gone, look at this. Colors. Umber to cadmium, putrid green to glossy black, nodes of bright white and handsome gray, shells of sea snails, entire universes gathered in clusters, everything exposed to air and sky, to sounds of trees and shrill birds, the breath of the early summer wind, vulnerable to our footprint, to small seismic shifts. This is under, behind, beyond, before. This is the sea. Dreaming. Okay, I'm going to move on here. I might come back to this one. Okay, I'm going to read a prose poem from Lost Gospels. As Kieran said, please don't make me take these back. Just make me an offer. Dusk. Dusk is such a ragged time. The sure day loosened from the line we strung across the reach of morning when a bird called out its signature, and we opened to the hours ahead, settling in to carve again a pure, clear shape around each thought and plan and offering, a duty done, a passage read, or one more step, or image caught, or lesson learned, or heart set right. But sundown pulls along its arc. The last descending string of light leaves us with minutes in our hands, frayed recollections, wild release, the folly of ambitious plans we trade for rest and abject peace. And this one, Terry, I will dedicate this to you because what you had read earlier has an echo. This is called St. Boniface. They walked out, coats unbuttoned at 35 below, stepped around smokers who stood outside the atrium by the revolving doors, shots of warmth along with their nicotine, past trees triumphantly lit on the boulevard, past taxis, emergency vehicles, a woman in a light jacket shielding a child and clutching a suitcase, everyone with a 100-yard stare. And with their shoes scuffing ice and salt, they crossed over to the park to search for the car they brought. Was it only that morning? Somewhere around here, snow had blown across the diagonal path, so they made their own. heads down, tracking each other's feet. Nothing now but that small focus. Behind them, the cross on the hospital roof was a beacon against cold, despair, or for salvation, perhaps. And it cast light on the backs of the four as they, unaware, fell into step in birth order across the field. One held a bag with a nightdress. They walked slowly in the dark, like shepherds in drifts, away from miracles. I will read one from Chile called Wild. All night you hear the birds, hundreds of them, restless, erupting, their racket filling the meadow, mocking the mountain, the cold stone calm of the old paperbark tree. What force opens their throats? What promise has been broken? What currents of hope and fear rush through those fragile bones, spring into their eyes, batter blood through the small devices of their hearts? Listen, nothing lasts. Quiet can be stolen like your bag in the street. You will soon be awake in all the wrong places, your words snatched out of time. Oblivion is a wise old teacher. There is no try. It's all right. You didn't get it until this moment, did you? Wake every chance you can. Join the chorus. Praise the wild. Carry light. And I'll finish up with one called Life at All. Monday morning, fog lifts on the coast to another hot summer day. The land here in Nova Scotia is parched, and across the continent, fires ravage the west coast. I refill containers of water and put them out on the deck for what few birds are around. We took down the feeders this year because of a dangerous virus killing the bird population. Where are the bright goldfinches, the bevy of robins that bounced in the grass, the family of crows that gathered on the larch waiting for me to throw scraps off the deck? When we first came to this part of the province, I checked local bird watching sites to see what species people had spotted in the area. Early mornings, I'd wake to raucous bird action on the roof and in the trees, listen for the whistle of the northern cardinal. But something has turned. The silence is unnerving. All my life, the natural world has seemed to me, as it did to biologist Louis Agassiz, a sacred text. Every creature a thought of the Creator. It wasn't romantic. It could be harsh and unforgiving. In childhood, I always lived in or near the bush. Ravaged nests, broken shells, and feathers scattered with blood taught me about predation and helped temper my ignorance and naivete. But in the ensuing decades, the global environmental crisis has perverted what we thought were the laws of nature. A 2019 study revealed that more than 3 billion breeding birds in North America have been lost in the last 50 years. I have no illusions about which species is the deadliest predator on the planet. As I watch the sea lift its gray veil, I scan the shore for a gull, a heron, even a crow. On the computer, I see a 5-minute clip of Joni Mitchell, Brandi Carlile, and Winona Judd. There she is, the woman known in my high school as Joan Anderson, who had graduated well before me and was the first president of the school's Writers Club. Our English teacher, Mr. Smythe, claimed she'd never amount to anything. I turn up the volume. Joni, who's had health problems, sits in a grand chair and leans in to sing Both Sides Now, slowly and with care. Her smoke-darkened phrasing, a stark contrast to the sweet and light sounds of her 1969 album, Clouds. Every word she sings brings the past with its lost dreams into the present, like the moon does with the tides. People around Joni are weeping. I am weeping. What we knew is gone. No, that's not really true. we really didn't know it at all. Thank you very much.